Do you ever find yourself in the grocery store and you're looking at two things and you're trying to decide which one is better and you're not really sure what you're looking for on the labels? I got you. My name is Coach Jeanette and I am Health Ninja Extraordinaire. I coach professional women and their partners to find lifelong health grooves that really work. Today we are talking nutrition labels. I have here as my example some kind peanut butter cluster granola packaging that I just nabbed out of my recycling. What matters, right? So you probably heard some things like, oh, pay attention to the order of ingredients, make sure it doesn't have too many ingredients. So let's dig into those and think about, do they matter? And maybe more importantly, when do they matter? So I'm just going to go read you this list. It's not too long, but there's a decent number of ingredients. So we've got gluten-free oats, cane sugar, peanut butter, brown rice, soy protein, isolate, tapioca syrup, peanut oil, peanuts, buckwheat, millet, amaranth, peanut flour, quinoa, brown rice syrup, sea salt, and tocopherols, which are a preservative. So there's a decent number of ingredients. You might have noticed that a lot of them are grains though, right? So we've got, the oats, we've got rice, peanuts, buckwheat, millet, amaranth, quinoa. Those are all whole grains. So there's a lot of them, but in that context, more ingredients isn't a bad thing. So it really depends what you're buying. So usually I would say if someone is buying, say, a whey protein powder, you want the fewest ingredients possible because you want a really pure product. You want to know it's high quality whey protein and that's it. So you should have whey in it and maybe you're flavoring and stevia, and that's for a sweetened one. And if it's not sweetened, it should really just be that whey protein. On the other hand, if you're buying a plant-based protein powder, more ingredients is probably a good thing, depending if you have sensitivities. Again, see, depends. Because when plant-based proteins tend to have different amino acids, so actually having more plant proteins in a single protein powder is potentially a better mix for you, and you may get a more complete protein. So you really got to pay attention to the context on these things. And what kind of ingredients are there more of? So in the case of this granola, more grains, that's not a bad thing. If it's more and more and more preservatives or more and more kinds of sugar, maybe you want to start having a look at that. Second piece, the order of ingredients. So this, you probably do know some of this already. The order of the ingredients tells you how much there is in the package. So the first ingredient is what there's most of. There's a tricky bit here. So gluten-free oats is your first one. Cane sugar is your second one. Further down the list, we also have tapioca syrup, which is also a sugar. Brown rice syrup, also a sugar. So this is a bit of a sneaky thing that companies do to make it seem like there's less sugar, because they know that people know that the order of the ingredients matters. So if they have more than one kind of sugar and they can list them separately, that overall quantity for each ingredient is lower. So if it was only one kind of sugar and it was all together, would it be more than that first ingredient? Here's where you got to check the next bit. Always cross-reference with your actual nutrition facts. So you've got your list of ingredients, but actually check here to see how much sugar did I actually end up with. And if you're concerned, depending on what your concern is about the added sugar, you're going to want to see if it's balanced out by the other things in there. So at the end of the day, is it just loaded with sugar and there's not much else in it, not much fiber, not much protein? But if there is a decent amount of fiber and protein, that's going to change how your body digests the sugar, and it's going to balance things out. So in my case, when I look at this, sugars are at 9 grams here. protein is at 8 grams and fiber is at 3 grams. So what I would do if I'm choosing a granola, if I'm going to choose a pre-made granola because I don't want to make my own, that's always an option, but it's a lot of work, takes a long time. It's not hard, but it's time consuming. I'm going to compare what's on the shelf. I'm going to be like, okay, this one has 9 grams of sugar and 8 grams of protein and 3 grams of fiber. This one has 12 grams of sugar and 8 grams of protein and 3 grams of fiber, which is in fact what I usually find on the shelf. There's usually a selection of granolas that will be at that 9-gram point and a selection that will be at that 12-gram point. And so because I know that I am more sensitive to sugar and I would like to have a little less processed sugar in my diet, I'm going to choose the ones that are at 9 grams, which is why I chose this one. There are plenty of other ones, and it's not the only brand that is at that 9-gram point. And I have occasionally found one that's like at 8. So just keep an eye on that. And I would definitely be suspicious if the fiber drops down. This, like, whole grains should be whole grains. So the carbs and the fiber should be 10 to 1-ish. So I've got 29 grams of carbs and 3 grams of fiber. So that to me says, yeah, they actually did use whole grains in this. And they aren't just saying, you know, there's whole grains, but it's actually mostly not whole grains. And they used like 1 whole grain so they could put the label on it. That's a thing too. So that's something to look for. So check your ingredients. Check the order. What are the ingredients? Do you recognize most of them? Are most of them whole foods? If you were comparing on the shelf, you got one with more whole foods and one with fewer whole foods, maybe you want to choose the one with more whole foods. Check for that repeated sugar and then double check with your nutrition facts and see how it comes out. How much sugar is there relative to the fiber and the protein? How is that sugar being balanced? Is it just you're going to get a big old hit of sugar right into the veins, or are you going to have something that is a little more balanced? And another thing to consider is also how much of this are you going to eat? So there's going to be a big difference in how much it matters what those ingredients are if you're going to eat a sprinkle of it versus an entire half cup. Like if you're doing it with milk, like cereal, that quantity of sugar might be more concerning to you than if you're just going to sprinkle it on top of your yogurt as a texture thing, right? So if you're eating a couple tablespoons at a time versus eating a cup at a time, how you want to weigh that in terms of how it meets your goals is going to be different. So I hope that is helpful for you. And if you have any other questions about nutrition labels, put them in the comments and I will pop in to answer them, or maybe I will do another live like this later. Have a most excellent day and be a ninja at life, my friends.